Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome back to All Texas Football. Welcome back to our Wednesday live stream, the Hump Day edition. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis. Pleased to be joined by fellow Lifetime Longhorn Young Prodigy CJ Vogel and the newest member of the On Texas Football family, my good friend and co-worker Jeff Howe, joining us as well. Lots to get into. Of course, we got the transfer portal to discuss. The portal, it giveth and it taketh away. So we'll discuss the transfer portal officially opening up and any potential inquiries or interest the Longhorns may have with particular players in the transfer portal. We'll dive into that, have that conversation. Also, we'll get into some player availabilities. We did have Anthony Hill, Colin Simmons, Michael Taft spoke to members of the media and two of the members of the On Texas Football family. The two men joining us right now, CJ and Jeff Howe, both were at the media availability and got a chance to check it out. So we'll get their thoughts about what some of the leaders on the Texas football team had to say today to the media. We'll also dive into some national conversation. Pro Football Focus has their preseason All-American 2025 list out already, and we'll get into that because some Longhorns are getting some love there. And also, I believe it was a CBS Sports put out a from Thailand. Hey, Longhorn Nation. The On Texas Football family continues to grow. Thank you. We appreciate that. Also, we'll get into a CBS Sports top 150 players for the 2025 season. And there's some Longhorns that also getting some love. So we'll dive into those and have those conversations. But first, let's discuss the player availability, guys, and then we'll get to the transfer portal unless there's some news that breaks in the meantime. But we'll get into that here momentarily. But you guys were on the 40 acres, got a chance to attend the player availability. I always just ask this, what statement and who made the statement that was most compelling to you? We'll start with you, Jeff. Which player at the media availability had the most compelling statement to make, in your opinion?
I'm gonna save the Colin Simmons stuff for CJ because I know he was enthralled with the Colin Simmons talk. I'm gonna give you credit on this, Rod, because I think it was either the last thing or the next to last thing he said. Michael Taft got asked about Jalen Gilbo and Wardell Mack. Gilbo's playing corner, Mack is at the star. And these exact words came out of Michael Taft's mouth, Rod. He said, Coach Aquino always tells us the 5 best DBs are going to play. Boom. And he said Aquino's exact example was, hey, if 4 of my 5 best DBs are safeties, he's like, Taft, you might have to go play corner. But I'm going to put 5 best DBs on the field. So I know that had to do your heart good, Rod.
Taft didn't say that, did he? Did Taft say that every quarter? Oh,
yeah.
That'd be fantastic. I would love to see that. I know Longhorn fans freaking out about the white safety. They would just lose their mind about Taft lining up at corner. No, but that's interesting that he still says that. The reason I throw it out there because he told us the same thing. He's like, no, man, my best 5 DBs are going to play. I will figure out a way to get them on the field. And that's why Ahmad Brooks was a corner that ended up starting at safety, and Quentin Jammer started at safety and ended up playing corner, and Nathan Basher had a very similar transition and went from safety and back down the corner because he was like, I need places for my best 5 DBs. So that's encouraging. I love that. I think that's great. That's a good question too. Who are going to be the best 5 DBs? That's what it comes down to. I don't
know if he's going to be in the best 5, but man, CJ, I'll throw it to CJ from here, man. Warren Roberson's name keeps coming up. It's come up all throughout spring, and it came up again today. Ant Hill mentioned it. CJ, I don't remember if it was Ant Hill or Colin Simmons that mentioned him. I know Taft talked about him just being really good in man coverage. So, yeah, and Kobe, Ant Hill said Kobe Black's had a good spring, but yeah, it's Warren Roberson might be the most improved member of the secondary, right, this spring, just considering the buzz he's generated.
Ooh, that's big. CJ, that's big to me because, if Ron Roberson's that guy and that ends up stepping up for you, that gives you more flexibility with a guy like Gilbo. You can, if he wins that job, potentially at corner, or at least is the guy that the coaches can trust, you can move Gilbo inside. Jelani McDonald still gives you a lot of flexibility. That's interesting that he's the guy now you're starting to hear a lot more of it, maybe more so or just as much as a guy like Kobe Black at that spot as well.
Yeah, certainly. And of course, what Anthony Hill said about Roberson earlier today said he's looking good in man coverage. And Rod, I know we've talked about it, maybe that transition to more man coverage. You've got the lengthier kind of quicker, change of foot or fleet kind of cornerbacks out wide right now. If that's the case for Texas in 2025, it sounds like Roberson's going to play a role. So we know Kobe Black did well in man coverage last year. We saw him on the road at Vanderbilt. We saw him at times against Arkansas as well, two key SEC games that I think were a little bit tighter than Texas fans wanted, yet the staff trusted him to get out there and put together some good tape. Right now, I think what's going to be really interesting is what does that rotation look like? Because, of course, Jalen Gilbo is getting that first-team run opposite of Manny Muhammad, so you got 4 in the mix, and then Santana Wilson, who physically is probably as, ideal a body as you'd like to see on the outside. I think he and Cade Phillips kind of had that size, that length, that speed that you'd like prototypically to see on the outside in a man coverage defense. So we'll see what that looks like as well. So I think Texas right now is about 6 deep when it comes to corners in the mix. We'll see if that tightens down for the fall. I would assume so, probably 3 or 4. But who are in those 3 or 4 right now? We have an idea, just not set in stone.
Yeah, to me the starters are Tav, Muhammad, Gilbo. Man, I feel like this thing, Jelani McDonald and Derek Williams, do you want to consider both of them starters or one of them starters? Because one started this season for you last year, that was Derek Williams. He gets hurt, and Jelani McDonald looks like, or at least sounds like, listening to the players, listening to Sark, he's trending toward being one of those starters, and he proved himself in several situations last year. I feel like you got not Derek Williams. I know he's not healthy now. I get that. I'm talking about projecting as your starters when the season starts. I feel like you got 4 starters back there. Maybe I'll split Derek Williams and split Jelani McDonald, and that's half a starter each. But I feel like with Tav, Muhammad, and Gilbo, those guys are going to start regardless. So what you're looking at now is who's the other guy that's going to prove he's a starter caliber player? Is it going to be a corner with Roberson and Kobe Black, or is it going to be at nickel with a guy like Wardell Mack, or is another safety decides, hey, I can earn more reps and I'm gonna start a caliber player too at safety. And like Coach Keaton says, I think I got 4 starting safeties. And maybe that will be the case. Maybe Taff and Jelani McDonald and Derek Williams, maybe they all kind of prove themselves, and then somebody else jumps in the mix and you end up with that many guys. I don't know. I just think the best 5, I've been on that from day one because I do think that's how they're going to approach it. They just don't know how it's going to look because they don't know who the other starter, where it's going to come from, cornerback or nickel or safety.
I'm with you, Rod. I think the 2 guys that I think are starters at their positions, if they have designated spots that are, you don't move them, starters, are Michael Taff and Manny Muhammad. Outside of that, McDonald could be a starter at safety, depending on the opponent. He could start at star. Gilbo could start at corner, depending on the opponent. He could start at star. You throw Derek Williams in there, and he's CJ. How do we want to describe Derek Williams on the mend? I guess because he has a presence at practice. From what we've heard, it doesn't. I mean, I don't know that what he's doing, but he's at least dressing out for practice, which is a pretty big step for a guy coming off an ACL last October. So I think you can mix it. And then, hey, we'll see what this Warren Roberson, Kobe Black battle looks like. I would imagine it's going to go through the summer and probably won't be decided until you get to camp. So, man, I'm excited, though. I'm excited that, somebody needed to step up in that room, Rod, in that corner room. Somebody needed to step up and have the kind of spring that Warren Roberson's had. Again, I'm not saying Kobe Black hasn't had a good spring, but for Warren Roberson's name to keep popping up every time anybody goes on the record, it's my antenna is raised.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And to double up on Derek Williams, look, it's only been about 6 months since the ACL tear. So, no, he is not active on the field. He is not a guy who is going through reps. He did suit up on Saturday, and that's a great sign in terms of where he is in his recovery. Not a guy running through backpedaling drills or anything like that, individual to the corners or safeties in that secondary room. But, hey, that's not expected right now, right? Only 6 months after an ACL tear. That normally takes a little bit longer. The plan is hopefully when August starts rolling around, he's getting closer to 100%. So wanted to clear that up. But when he is healthy, I mean, again, you're talking about 4 guys in that back end that you can really rely on. You know, I think that Texas is really talented in that safeties room, and it's only going to get better when Jonah Williams says, all right, football season, right? Let me put on the pads now. So how quickly will he be able to get up to speed with some of the calls, with some of the lingo? Well, that remains to be seen, but I think it's going to take a Herculean effort from the rest of that room to keep Jonah Williams off the field in 25.
Yeah, I'm with you. I've been on the record. I mentioned the Thorpe Award first time I watched this film, so I do. I think the young man is special. All right, CJ, your turn. What to you was kind of the most compelling statement made by which player? What stood out to you at the player availability?
Yeah, I mean, Colin Simmons saying he wants to break the sack record. How could you not hear that and say, oh, okay? Because, again, we talk about Colin Simmons and how good he could be. Well, he also said he's gotten a little bit quicker on his first step off the ball, Rod. And I don't know if I truly believe that just yet, because what we saw last year was so remarkable and ridiculous with his first step that I don't know if it's possible to get quicker. But he said the work that he's been putting in with Alan Clark so far has helped him off the ball. It's helped him in the run game. It's helped him, find ways to get into the quarterback a little bit quicker. And I can only imagine life for Brandon Baker, Andre Kojo, and Trevor Gooseby. It hasn't been very fun having to go against Colin Simmons every day in practice so far. So we'll see what that means for him. But for him to say that Alan Clark's even unlocking a little bit more for his game and that he wants to break the sack record, yeah, sign me up for that. I'm all the way in.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just throw it out there, 22.5. That is the record. So, and he's got a lot of games. If they make a run to the national title, I mean, he's going to play 16, 17 games, whatever it is. So he'll get a shot. But, man, 22.5. Getting all the attention he's going to get, that would be a hell of a season. I mean, that would be one of the greatest pains in the history of college football. That's going to get a lot of attention next season. Yeah. But sorry, go ahead.
Rod, I pointed this out on Football Theory, which Rod and I just recorded. It'll be up tomorrow. Since 1984, only 3 guys at Texas have had 11.5 or more sacks in a season. Brian Arakpo did it in 2008. Alex Okafor did it in 2012, and Jackson Jeffcoat did it in 2013. So if he can approach if he can get to Jeffcoat's 13, then that means Colin Simmons had a hell of a year.
Yeah, we were talking about it, that 30 sack club. I think it's very likely Colin Simmons ends up in that thing when it's all said and done. Again, I'm only giving him 3 years to do it. Then he's off to the NFL draft. But the pace that he's on with what we're expecting from him to continue pushing, I mean, yeah, I think he's going to be in that elite club.
Yeah, no, I don't doubt that at all. I don't doubt that. I got him down for, I think, 12.5 sacks, somewhere around there. I could easily see him going on a run, though, at one point. I can't wait to see how they scheme it, because they can't – I mean, you can leave him out there if you want to, but I think there are going to be ways where Texas can kind of scheme his pass rushing ability to a point where it's a little bit more advantageous. I mean, that's the NASCAR package, guys. That was most of his sacks came in the NASCAR package. As I pointed out, 7 of his 9 sacks, right? That was to weaponize him. I can't wait to see moving around. Trey Morris sure is a big part of that. Moving Colin Simmons around sometimes. Twists and stunts you talk about, Jeff. I think that's going to be a big part of that. So I think they're going to do a lot of stuff to make it easy to get him freed up, because he's going to get so much attention early on too. But he's just going to, in one-on-ones, and he's just going to eat tackles alive, especially if he thinks he's getting faster off the ball. What the hell? Faster off the ball? I would love to see that. If he's getting faster off the ball, they're going to call him for offsides, because I'm telling you, there are times, I tweeted out, there are times, guys, where the ball is still like the center is barely moving the ball.
Yeah.
And he is already working toward his second step downhill. So I can't wait to ask him. And you guys may need to ask him. I wish somebody would have asked him today. I should have told you guys to ask him a question. When when he is like basically when he's getting ready, right? When he's getting ready to either see the snap or he is looking at the player in front of him, whatever he is keying, is it something more than just the ball?
That one's crazy.
Because that one, the ball, still like the other one, the next one, the ball is still there. That's a ball. Like the center, look at his hand.
That might be offsides.
But I don't. They didn't call it offsides. That was not offsides. That was not called offsides. Just letting you know, that was not called offsides. Those are just a few. I've seen that before. He does that a lot, actually.
Yeah.
Where even Brian Roberson said, he's not just looking at the ball. He said there's other things that he is keying in on because otherwise you can't humanly just be that fast off the ball. Yeah. Which I happen to agree with.
Yeah, he's got to be looking at some. There's got to be some. The quarterback's got to have some tell, or that tackle's got to have some kind of tell, something.
And he's probably never going to tell us if he's smart. No. If he does know something, don't tell us. But I need somebody to ask him at least whatever. And I want to know what answer he's going to give the media about it, because I think Brian's right. Ever since Brian said that, I started watching him, and yeah, it ain't just the ball. There's something else and if he is just naturally, instinctually, just his timing is that good and anticipation that good, then yeah, he's gonna break the sack record. He that good, he's gonna break the sack record.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of the last Texas guy I saw that had that kind of BGO like that. Nobody's had it like that. But the closest things I may have seen, because Bobby Petronic pointed it out, which is good to see him in the chat. Brian Arakpo had that unique ability to convert, speed to power, power to speed. He was rare in that sense. Rod, he's a guy that redshirted your senior year and was a redshirt freshman in 03. Kid Mike Williams out of Lindale. He only played in 03, and then I think it was either off-field or academics. He ended up going to an NAIA school. I think he went to Texas College for a bit and washed out. But Mike Williams, just in terms of a pure speed rusher off the edge, probably the closest thing I can remember to Colin Simmons. But even then, he's in a whole different. Simmons is in a whole different stratosphere.
Yeah. Now with his BGO, he's twitchy. I mean, there are a lot of guys. Von Miller was twitchy like that, like just twitchy, and his BGO was crazy. Some guy said, Jamie O says just my opinion, the only comparison is Simmons. I hate to say Von Miller. It's too obvious. Von Miller, like I say, he was twitchy and his BGO was, mutant-like. There is some of that. Like, I agree. And then if you're just dealing with a guy who has that kind of BGO, man, that's half the battle in pass rushing. Mm-hmm. You don't need a lot of moves when you have that kind of ball get off. So all right, let's thank.
And by the way, Rod, just to compare the tie the two together, both from the same part of the Metroplex, with Colin Simmons from Duncanville, Von Miller's a DeSoto guy. So there's that.
Yeah,
not bad.
That's not bad at all. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Something else, since we're talking about what the guy said before we get to thank our first sponsor. I believe it was Colin Simmons who brought up Lance Jackson and said that he was special. That basically he's another guy that's special. I like when the special guys start talking about who they think are special. Mm-hmm. And he said that he thinks he's definitely going to be a first rounder. The body says something like that, just his body and his frame. But I wonder if he's showing, freaky stuff early on too.
Yeah. I got a text right before this started saying, oh yeah, he's going to be a stud. So just to back that up and to hear that from Colin too, that's high praise.
No, I agree. Like I said, I remember when Sark said the best looking room was the cornerback room. Remember he said that last media availability, and it was kind of shocking. He was like, "There's a lot of good looking rooms on that roster right now, like the position rooms." And one of them had to be, he's like, "Man, the edge room, like that's a good room, like just
linebacker too, yeah,
linebacker too." And she said cornerback. I think I disagree with that. Now, can I disagree with that? Can I say, like, I don't know if cornerback is the best looking room of all the position rooms. I think he might be edge. Edge looks good, man. With Lance Jackson in there now, too. That's a good looking room. When you got Vosick in there and Burt, and then Colin Simmons, and then Trey Moore just kind of like getting back and forth. I'm talking about even how it looks. Trey Moore, I guess he ain't the look kind of. I'm just talking about even the other guys and how they look. Because he was just talking about how the aesthetic of the position. Does corner look that good? I'm happy it does. Does it look that good?
Kobe Black, Grayson Littleton's name got brought up today by Michael Taft. Roberson's another guy. Was Warren Roberson like 6 foot, about 185, 190, maybe bigger than that now. I'm with you, Rod. It's probably not the best looking position group.
Safety might look a little bit. I know because Taft in there, y'all hating on Taft as the white safety, but safety is long and rangy. Like McDonald's in there now. Think about when Jonah Williams comes in there, and like that's a nasty looking room. I like corner. I'm just saying. I don't know if it's the best looking. Yeah,
you're splitting hairs. It's like I don't know what you can compare it to, but I mean it's a good room, but compared to the edge room physically, it's not even close.
I think, to those corners though, those corners are starting to look, they get longer and taller too. Starting to look like that, probably the corners that he wants in that secondary now. That's kind of what he's probably describing. Even though those guys were great last season, these are the guys that ultimately Sark has envisioned as his type of player at the cornerback position. All right, let's thank our friends over at Flat Creek Estate Winery before we move on here. Flat Creek Estate, just a minute from downtown Austin, folks, and they've won award after award for their vintage wine, Super Texan. Super Texan is now available. They actually have it at your local spec, so you can give it a try there. They also display at our local central as well. So the good word is getting out about the fantastic selection of Flat Creek Estate Winery. Also, they not only produce some of the best wines on the market, with barbecues and wine tastings every single weekend. Perfect a date with your significant or a weekend getaway with your significant other. That's Flat Creek Estate Winery. Check them out at flatcreekestate.com. Or you can go check out their beautiful venue for yourself. Actually, get a tour of it. It is amazing. And we had a member of the Owen Texas football family get engaged out there at Flat Creek Estate Winery. So no matter how special the occasion, my friends at Flat Creek Estate Winery can accommodate any festivity, any occasion that you have in mind. That's flatcreekestate.com. All right, let's get back to we'll come back to talking about some of the other comments from the players at the player availability. I know we got a couple of questions and a super chat here, so I want to hit that first foremost. Lonnie Love, thank you, Lonnie Love, for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Says, which side of the ball, to include specials, will be the anchor of the team, and will we have 2,000-yard backs this season? And who will they be? Oh man, no, I don't know if we're gonna have 2,000-yard backs. If CJ Baxter and Trey Wisner both stay healthy, though, that is going to be a really formidable, running attack. Like, you'll have a lot of diversity and variety if you can keep them running backs healthy. But I don't know if you'll have, I think there will be some carries taken away from some of those running backs just because of the depth in the room. And I think you have a little quarterbacks scrambling and probably more quarterback runs than you've had in a few years too. So I don't know if you'll get 2,000-yard backs. When was the last time Texas had 2,000-yard backs?
Couldn't tell you. And I don't think this year will be the first time that it happens. I don't know. I still need to see this offensive line prove to me that they can move the ball against in Ohio State, against the Georgia, against the Florida, in inside zone and outside zone. I need to see it first, right? We've talked about, the strength of a NATO, the strengths of a DJ, the strengths of a Cole. Okay, now let's see that happen in real life. And it's kind of unfortunate that we don't get the spring game for that exact reason, right? It's all an unknown. It's all, hypothetical right now. I think Texas will get one. Who might be the second guy closest to it? Well, I think that also depends on how healthy a CJ Baxter is, right? Does he eventually come back and win back those starting reps over Trey Wisner, or is Trey Wisner now distance himself from the rest of that room, because we've heard a lot of James Simon so far. Jarrett Gibson was singled out today. We've heard, and then of course Christian Clark moving very well. There might be too many bodies in that room to even think two guys from Texas are in the conversation, because you have, the wealth of bodies that you can disperse these carries out to, and I think that's a great sign in the running back room. I think Texas Boy Wonder, actually with the comment here, probably 3 over 600. I think that's way more likely than you see 2 with 1,000. I think you'll probably have one like Trey Wisner back in that conversation where it's 11, 12 in that range. And then again, is it Jarrett Gibson? Is it James Simon? Is it Christian Clark? Or could it be a CJ Baxter coming all the way back in? And I'll add this because I didn't mention him in this conversation. We saw a few Ricky Stewart questions in the chat. He's coming along, and freshmen take different strides when it comes to getting to campus early. He's making progress. It just some guys taking a little bit longer than others or quicker than others in terms of getting up to speed with the playbook and understanding concept schemes. He's doing fine physically, just trying to get up to speed with the playbook.
You had 2,000-yard rushers in 2003. I'm sorry, 2004. Vince Young ran for 1,000. Cedric Benson ran for 1,000.
Okay.
I thought there might have been one of those Sean Mitchell, Ricky Williams years.
It was 90. It was close, but they said it didn't happen. I think it was 90.
95. Sean Mitchell ran for 1,099, and Ricky was, I think,
10 yards shy.
10 yards.
It's 990 here, so he was 10 yards shy.
Yeah, thank you, JF. It was 10 yards. Yeah, you're right.
I believe that's Bucky Godboll's fault.
It is.
Right?
Even though
Bucky Godboll tells that story. The famous, the running back coach of the time, he tells the story of, I don't know, I forget how it goes, but basically somebody was supposed to remind him that Ricky was close to 1,000 yards, or when Ricky got close, and either they did remind him or he forgot, and they kept Ricky on the sideline, and he only needed was 10 yards to get to 1,000. Right? Is that the way it worked out, Joe? I believe that's the way. Yeah, that's freshman year, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he was getting 1,000 yards as a freshman, and the coach Bucky Godboll, good guy, by the way.
It's even more inexcusable because you got to remember in '95 they didn't count bowl stats.
No, you're right.
The last game where they would have counted stats would have been the A&M game, and Ricky was tearing the Aggies a new one. There's no reason why he shouldn't have carried it like 40 times that day.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about it because it is. You're right. It was against the Aggies, and they beat them 16-6 or something.
16-6 at Kyle Field. Yep, the last Southwest Conference championship.
Oh man, good stuff. Good memory. Shout out to Bucky Godboll, the legend. Also, Lonnie wants to know which side of the ball will be the anchor of the team. That's a good one because last year it ended up being the defense. Remember, last year everybody thought it was going to be the offense, and the offense was a bit inconsistent. Still very explosive, but inconsistent, especially in critical moments. But nothing was more consistent than the Texas defense, and not only consistently elite all season long. So that was the identity of the team. And I think later on, Sark kind of realized that too, and change and tweak some things that, let's just lean on the defense because ain't nobody going to be marching down the field on our defense multiple times in the game. It just ain't going to happen. And it didn't happen, really.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the defense is there's too many stars. Like, I know Michael Taft is going to be good in the back end. I know Anthony Hill is going to be in the buckets conversation. I know Colin Simmons is going to get me 10-plus sacks. I know Trey Moore is pretty darn good as well. I don't know that on the offensive side of the ball.
My hope is that it's more like 2023 than 2024, where it's not obvious which one of those three phases is doing a better job holding up there at the end of the deal. Because there was, other than the turnovers, the offense puts you in a position to win that Sugar Bowl against Washington. And special teams was consistent start to finish all year, and we know what the defense did. So it was that Sark always talks about complementary football. That was complementary football nirvana in 2023 for all intents and purposes. I mean, it really was. We saw all three phases in different games help that team get the 12 wins. Yeah, and to basically within one play of playing for a national championship. So I hope it's closer to 20. Like last year, there was no question. Special teams was a net negative probably at the end of the day. And like you said, Rod, the offense, as explosive as it was, at times it was explosive because it had to be. You couldn't consistently put drives together. You had to get chunk yardage plays.
Yeah. No, it saved you, honestly, because you weren't great in the red zone. You weren't great in third down, some of the critical areas, and you turned the ball over way too much. But, man, explosive plays saved you. That 4th and 13, primary example. Saved the season. That's just what happened. All right, thank you, Lonnie Love. We appreciate the super chat there. All right, let's get back to a couple of more questions. How about this one from Texas Boy Wonder? So get us into the transfer portal conversation. We'll come back to some spring football conversation here, but let's hear some transfer portal talk, guys. Texas Boy Wonder says, did you guys already talk about the Cal tight end in the portal? Pete Thamel reported he's visiting Texas. Yes, CJ. It was, I believe, do we have any details? But it was reported that injuries, I believe is his name, Jack Injuries, that there is interest on his part to Texas.
Yeah, Pete Thamel did report that he is going to take a visit to Texas. When might that be? Well, that remains to be seen. Of course, we believe that Indiana is going to be a big threat in this recruitment as well. His former quarterback, Francisco Mendoza, is now the quarterback over for Curt Cignetti in Indiana at the moment. So it's going to be a heavily contested portal recruitment. And of course, I was told Oklahoma was looking at a portal tight end too. So we'll see what that might mean. But right now, Jack Injuries at least is planning to take a trip to Texas. This is one that I think we would all agree Texas at the tight end position, very much looking to add somebody from the portal in this cycle. There are no career receptions at that position currently, and you're seeing it's pretty thin when you don't have Jordan Washington healthy, though I was told he did suit up in the Texas practice this morning. You know, he did have his jersey on. He did go through some light warm-ups, nothing crazy, of course, for him as he continues to work back from what Sarkisian called a clavicle. So we'll monitor that. But right now, Texas in the thick of things for Jack Injuries. We'll wait to see how his visits kind of pan out before, putting a prediction one way or the other here.
All right. Any other so we know tight end is a position that Texas needs to address in the transfer portal. You guys, Jeff, you feel like there's any other position that is a need for Texas to address in the transfer portal? We just saw wide receiver, obviously, with Emmett Mosley from Stanford. Tight end, in addition to tight end, do you feel like there's any other position they should prioritize?
Yeah, interior defensive line. I think you need a disruptor. I don't think you just take, I don't even think best player available cuts it, right? Because I don't think you need another, kind of over the ball type guy. You don't need that zero tech or that shaded nose. You need a guy that can be a penetrator, a disruptor, and get up the field. That's kind of the one thing in the room you don't have right now. Now, I was intrigued by the fact that Sark brought up Hero Canoe the other day when he was talking about spring standouts, but still, I'd like to have another experienced guy in there to be someone who can be a disruptor. Other than interior D-line, kicker's the one where
that's good.
There's, CJ, you can speak to this too. There's some smoke there at least. I don't even want to say smoke. It's let's say it's just some embers emanating from what could be some possible smoke at kicker. I don't think Sark wants to go through another year, Rod, like he went through last year, where once you get across the, pretty much between the 40s, you're in 4-down territory because you can't trust your kicker. You've got to plan on getting chunk yards. So I just don't think he wants to go through that again. And I for Sark to say they haven't seen enough at this point in spring to be able to determine where that race is between Bert Auburn and Will Stone, to me, that might tell you as much as anything about where they are in terms of needing a kicker.
Yeah, I don't ask why, but over the last week or so, I've kind of just thrown on TV while I've been working. Go to YouTube and throw on like the SEC's like game of the week, and just kind of watch the highlights from that. And for whatever reason, I've kind of zoned off. I'm probably on game 4, right? Started Ole Miss in Florida, and then Florida and LSU. Just kind of worked down the line. But for whatever reason, the YouTube algorithm picked up Texas and Arizona State. I was like, all right, for the next 19 minutes, I'll sit here and relive that magical moment, right?
Oh man!
Until you get to the final 5 minutes of the fourth quarter, and you're like, God, I forget how quickly Arizona State came back in this game, right? 2 touchdowns, they were down. They converted both 2-point conversions. And then you see Texas drive down the field, and you're like, all right, yeah, field goal range. Oh, wait, that's not how that was supposed to end. Oh, they got the ball back, field goal range. Oh, shoot, yeah, this game did go to overtime. So I'm sitting there thinking, to relive that again, I don't know if I could do it. I don't know if y'all could do it. I don't know if Texas fans could live through another moment like that fourth quarter, those final 5 minutes against Arizona State. Fortunately for Texas, Andrew Makuba, Matthew Gold, and Quinn Ewers came up really big in that game. Point being, look, there is a guy from Texas State that just entered the portal, right? Pretty good kicker. There is a guy from Baylor that just entered the portal. We'll see if that moves the needle at all. But there are options for Texas. And again, I've said it time and time again. At the punting and kicking position, you should never be in a position where it's a weakness of your team. Go get the WAC. Go get the Sun Belt. Go get whoever. There's always going to be a guy who's been there, done that, put up good numbers, and can proven that they can kick a ball pretty far. I would go get that guy every single year. Go find me a Ryan Sanborn. Go find me a Jack Boomeister. That's how I would recruit the position moving forward for the rest of my life, as long as this portal is available to me. So let's see what they do. But, hey, Mason Shipley, I've seen some comments, the Texas State kicker, he's 30 of 34 over the last 2 years. He's got a long of 60, and he's 6 of 8 last year from 40 plus. I don't know if we have the numbers available in terms of what Texas kickers were last year, but I can tell you it wasn't 75% from 40 plus yards.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree with your take, CJ. There's no excuse for you to have, especially a school like Texas, for you to have kicking inconsistency and kicking woes within the transfer portal NIL era. Just go get one. But maybe they believe they got 2. They just need to let the cards kind of fall and let them, whoever's going to win the competition, and maybe they'll end up being like a more consistent kicker than they were last season. It could really get. Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Thanks, Matthew.
Yeah, it's not pretty. That's not pretty. I don't even know how you recover from that mentally, though. That's tough. Can Bert Auburn recover from that? What happened? The spiral that he went on last year. Can he recover from that mentally? Everybody knows that Bert Auburn can kick, but he essentially ended up getting the yips late last season. Can a kicker recover from that? We shall see. That's part of the drama.
Yeah, the odd thing though, between the SEC championship game and the Peach Bowl, same stadium, which is weird. It was issues kicking indoors, which should be ideal for a kicker, right? Like we've seen Bert Auburn kick better in open air stadiums than he has indoors. I don't know enough about place kickers to have a theory on that, but guys, that's just, I don't know. That's just weird. I don't know. I can't think on the top of my head that I've heard of something like that, where a guy's seems to be more comfortable in an open air environment than he is indoors.
It was all in his head, Jeff. It was all in his head, man. It was.
It's got to be. Yeah.
It was all in his head. All right. Before we move on, let's thank another one of our sponsors for tonight's program, our friends at Bluebird Organizing. If you're feeling overwhelmed, maybe it's just transitions in your life. Maybe you've let some things pile up on you. Maybe you're just or maybe you're just disorganized, right? As a person, our friends at Bluebird Organizing can help you. Is your wife feeling a bit overwhelmed? Does she consistently mention how she wishes she could read easily, or how she parks the cars in the garage, but there's no space? Or maybe she complains about tripping all over the kids' toys. Are you, as a husband, feeling at a complete loss as to how you can help? With spring cleaning well on its way and Mother's Day just around the corner, give your wife the gift of a lifetime with a customized organizing session from Bluebird Organizing. Perry, owner of Bluebird Organizing, will come into your space without judgment and give your wife the organized kitchen, closet, playroom, and or garage of her dreams. Plus, Perry will take care of all the donations that you have, so you don't have to worry about getting rid of all the stuff. She'll take care of that for you. Also, she'll take care of your space and make sure that it's a place for you and your family to enjoy for years to come. It's time to give your wife a gift she'll love with Bluebird Organizing. You can call her or text Perry at 737-367779. That's 746-7779, or you can reach out to her online at bluebirdorganizing.net. That's bluebirdorganizing.net. It's a free in-person consultation. I actually had one myself. I'm going to have Bluebird come out as soon as we can sync up the schedules and come out and help me with the office and organize my office here and also organize our garage a little bit more because things are piling up there. So I encourage you as well. Reach out to Bluebird Organizing. Got nothing to lose, but so much to gain with bluebirdorganizing.net. Thank you very much to Bluebird Organizing for being sponsors of our Wednesday night live stream. All right, let's hit a couple of super chats here. Shannon has a super chat. Thank you very much, Shannon. Says, in your opinion, do you all think if we get our needs in the portal, we have a great chance of winning it all? Thank you, Shannon. We appreciate the super chat. Gentlemen, if they address all the needs, and the needs we just went over, right? Tight end, D tackle. I would like what you said about place kicker potentially. If they address all those needs, is this a championship caliber team?
Yeah, I think at that point it comes down to health. I mean, that's really what you need. I mean, the elite of the elite teams, Rod. You can look at any national champion. You needed to catch a break along the way somewhere, or maybe a couple breaks. Just the football gods, went in your favor, and you stayed healthy. Healthy enough at positions where you could afford an injury, or you had some margin for error. So that to me is what it's all about. I do think I've seen Texas Boy mentioned in the chat. CJ mentioned it earlier. To me, it all comes down to, hey, if you get in another situation where you're in a one-score game and you've got first and goal on the one, can your offensive line get you that 1 yard against like or better competition? That to me is so everything I said plus what CJ said earlier. I think it comes down to those two things. But yeah, if Texas gets all the needs met, there's no question this is a team that can get back to the Final Four.
Yeah, and again, I look at quarterback. What level of play from your quarterback will you be getting? I think we're all expecting if it's a level up with Arch Manning this year, especially with the new element of his legs in this offense. Look, I think that will alleviate some inexperience on the offensive line, or if it takes some time for that group to gel. Hey, I think that could solve a lot of your issues, is having a running quarterback. I remember last year, it was every single time Quinn took off, it was found money, right? It was like, wasn't expecting that. 3rd and 7, we just stole a free possession because he was able to find 9 yards, right? So I'm not saying Arch's legs are going to be the entire reason why Texas goes out and wins a championship, but it's certainly going to help, and it's certainly going to make up for what could be some shallow points on the Texas roster next year. Now, if they go out and they find a really good defensive lineman, a really good tight end, they go find, maybe another wide receiver or playmaker, yeah, they're going to have a really good roster, and they're going to have a lot of talent on the roster that's going to, at the very least, be in the conversation. So we'll see if that takes them all the way. But right now I'm thinking as long as Arch Manning is the guy that, we all believe him to be, Texas is going to be in really good shape to make a run for a championship.
To me, it boils down to CJ in that vein with Arch taking care of the football, doing a better job taking care of, like Texas was. Rod, we've broken down the numbers on football theory. Texas was awful taking care of the football last year. They were one of the worst in the country. And penalties, man. Look, granted, you had games like the SEC championship game where it's like, okay, this is going one side and it should even out at some point. But it's the pre-snap stuff that just drives you insane. I mean, I always say this, like, not that you're okay with penalties, but if it's a situation where a guy's getting called for a hold or a DPI or something like that, at least it's in the throes of competition and a guy's trying to make a play, right? But pre-snap stuff, that's lack of focus, lack of attention to detail, and that's the kind of stuff that gets you beat. Like, I think we forget it wouldn't have been 4th and 13 if your Allen Trophy winner hadn't jumped off sides.
Yeah.
So just the pre-snap stuff has to get cleaned up, and the turnovers have to get cleaned up. Because Rod, I don't know how extensively you've studied takeaways from year to year, but I don't know if you can count on being 30 some odd takeaways or whatever it ended up being last year. I don't think you can count on doing that again.
Yeah. No, you should have led the country in turnover margin. The only reason you did is because your offense was one of the worst teams in the country at taking care of the football.
Yeah.
Listen, if Texas has as good a chance as anybody, if they get all the needs addressed. But you guys mentioned a lot of the issues that could still hold them back, right? Situation like critical situations, red zone, special teams, field goal kicking, turning the football over. Third down. They ain't been necessarily great in third down either. They have to be better in critical situations. I do think Arch will be better there. I think his legs, to CJ's point, that will bring an added. Put like this: if you're studying the NFL, which I do, the most efficient, effective play in football right now is the scramble. It is. The average scramble in the NFL averages more than the average pass. And you go look at the final 4 teams or the final 8 teams in the NFL and go look at their quarterbacks and see what they all have in common. It's a cheat code. And if you don't have that cheat code these days, it makes executing offense just a whole lot tougher. Yeah. And Texas has been missing that cheat code in one of the best offenses in the country while Quinn's been the quarterback. Nothing wrong with that. It's just that's something Quinn doesn't have. But now you're going to add what is arguably the best offensive cheat code in football right now. Just a quarterback that can straight up scramble. Force you to defend 3 plays in one. Defend the initial pass play, defend the scramble drill, and then defend the scramble. It's hard to do that. Trust me, as a DB, I can tell you. That's number 1. Number 2 is you've also been one of the worst teams in college football at throwing the deep ball. The worst. Had the fastest wide receiving core in college football the last 2 years and can't complete a deep ball. I'll give you a couple of stats I was looking at just for draft purposes. Isaiah Bond, 45% catchable target rate on 15-plus yard targets downfield. That was the 5th worst of any receiver draft eligible one in the last 4 years. Xavier Worthy's 39% career targets on 15-plus yards downfield were the considered catchable targets were considered the worst since 2022. He averaged 9.2 yards per target on deep targets. That was the 2nd worst this past decade of round 1 or round 2 wide receivers since 2014. Adjusted completion percentage from 2021 to 2023 on deep passes, Texas was 118th out of 133. My point is, you just been bad, like really bad at the deep ball. You're going to now add that as a more organic element. Truth is, Arch averages a higher deep ball rate than any quarterback that we've seen play for Sark really since they've started Pro Football Focus. Like there's nothing really on record about it's really kind of hard to go back because Mac Jones was still around 15%. Then you got to go obviously back to NFL. You got to go back probably to his USC days maybe, or go back to maybe the Washington days to find a quarterback of Sark's that's going to throw the ball deep as much as Arch. And I don't even think they would have a 20+% deep ball rate. So you're going to add 2 elements to the offense that you just didn't have before. And he may not be as good early on with the short intermediate stuff, the timing of it and the anticipation as Quinn was, because that was Quinn's, wheelhouse, his bread and butter. But he'll get that'll happen with just time and reps. But the other stuff comes naturally. Scrambling and a deep ball come naturally. And Texas has been bad, or that element has been non-existent for them in the last few years. If that takes off, that could take Sark's offense to a level we haven't seen. So
maybe for Sark, Rod, maybe a healthy Tua might have been that guy.
To throw it, he wasn't. His deep ball rate wasn't that high either. I went and looked. Nobody at Bama approached 20%.
And I
don't think Matt Ryan did in the league. I doubt he was bombing it like that.
Yeah, and I would think, back in the USC days when Sark took over for Norm Chow, I think that was still I would like to see what Mark Sanchez did in 08, but he might be it but that was still like Norm Chow West Coast offense. So probably you're probably right. I think you're right. This is probably going to be the best, the most prolific deep ball passer Sark has ever coached.
So I don't know the exact. My thing is that's why Texas, those elements is why Texas could be lethal. But they got to clean up the other stuff too, as you guys just mentioned. Otherwise, they're not going to win the national title if they get better in critical areas like red zone and taking care of ball security, things like that. And
sorry,
go
Rob.
ahead. Well, go ahead, Jeff. Go ahead.
No, just one more thing about the deep ball, what it should help you do, and this compounded the issue with Texas last year with the run game. You didn't have the threat of the vertical game to decompress around the line of scrimmage.
Nope.
Teams could crowd you. They could bring their safeties and corners up, and they could play you close. You need to you use the term, Rod, and I love it. You need to plant that seed. You need to plant that seed of doubt. The seed of doubt was never planted last year against teams because they didn't fear the deep ball. I have a feeling they will with Arch.
Rod, if I could add one thing to the list of, I guess, in-game factors that will determine a win or loss, to me, how about this? And we talked about some of the starts Texas had last year. That opening possession, we've talked about it previously last year. It wasn't great in 23. It kind of tapered off late in 2024. If Texas can start quick and just rely on that defense to not give up 20 points, which they were really good at a year ago, you're going to win a lot of football games. And that also just means flipping field position because, I was charting it a little bit last year. I looked at it briefly again this year. You didn't score many touchdowns, right? You didn't find ways to put points on the board early on. And some of that goes into the aggressiveness of Sark on that opening drive. But I remember back in 2023, right? You only had 4 of your 15 games did you find the end zone on your opening drive when you're expected Sarkisian and his script to be a brain above everybody else on the field? That wasn't necessarily the case. So we'll see if that changes with Arch. And again, that aggressiveness I love early on in games, but you got to end up with points. And I think that changes the way some of these games are played if you're not able to put points on the board early on in some of these conference games.
Yeah,
Rod, think about how much better the defense will be, Rod, if they can play with a lead earlier. If the offense stops turning the ball over and putting them on short fields, and if the special teams is able to better control field position.
Oh,
like you think about how good the Texas defense was last year, and think about how many short fields they were on. Special teams couldn't flip the field. Like they were constantly like playing backs against the wall defense, sudden change defense, and still shutting down. Like the history books will show that it was one of the more remarkable defensive efforts we've seen in the history of this program because the offense and the special teams didn't help them out like at all.
I look at that Georgia game at home.
Yeah,
that thing might have gone to overtime if Texas's offense gave them any bit of a field position. And that's crazy because Texas was never close in that game.
Yeah.
Because they were just hung out to dry defensively.
No, you think that's a great point. It might be the best sudden change defense I've seen at Texas. Like it was a sudden change. They would come out and they would still and maybe in the critical moments. So like they had a couple of goal line stands. And they'd show up, and like that defense they were not fazed by the oftentimes self-destructive nature of the other phases of the team. They would just come out and take care of business, man.
Yeah, I have never, to that point, Rod, I have never felt better in the Texas defense in a 4th and goal situation than I did in the A&M game and the Clemson game. Like I would have been floored had either of those teams scored. Like I was expecting the stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the minute like I saw, I saw with A&M lined up with the tailback like 9 yards deep in the backfield. I'm like, this is going to end bad. Like this is not going to go well. And it didn't go well. And then man, against Clemson, man, it was Bill Norton leading the charge. Like I'm blown away by how good the Texas defense was. And I think when you look at the 2025 defense, Rod, I don't know where you stand on this. If you just clean that up, like if you stop turning it over and your punter can actually be a net positive, that could make up for, hey, you lost such and such with personnel. Let's see how you do when you don't have to constantly defend a short field or you're not constantly in a sudden change situation and you can play with a lead. And if you play with a lead, what does that mean? You turn it into a throw game. And if you turn it into a throw game, then you can bring out your pass rushers. So we haven't seen the ceiling for this. I mean, we know what the ceiling is for this defense, but there's a way for the 2025 defense to be elite without just having to count on them just stoning people for 16 games.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. That's a good point, though. They don't have to be last year's defense if they're putting better situations.
Yeah.
They don't have, I agree with that 100%. Last couple of things. Third quarter, can't have third quarters like they did last year either. And Sark also has to take a step as a coach. He admitted it. He's got a break tendency in big games to help win those games. More, as he put it, he needs to have more stuff available in those big games. And I think that's part of him and the growth for him as a play caller to become a chess master. So plenty of room for growth for this team. I think they'll get there in the Manning years. Will it all happen next season for them? We'll see. We don't know how good Arch is going to be early. What are the growing pains like for a Manning, for an Arch Manning? That's what we don't know. For a prodigy like that, for a guy who's been in the system already for 2 years, so he knows the system. So we'll see what that learning curve is like for him. But when he gets close to his ceiling, I mean, he's going to be special, and so will Texas. All right, let's get back to the super chats here. We got a few of them. How about this one from Eric76? Thank you for the super chat. Is there a position group that couldn't recover from multiple injuries the way the running back room was able to handle the injury losses last season? And if so, shouldn't Sark just get depth players and not starters? Thank you for the question, Eric. We appreciate that.
Tight end. I think that's an obvious.
Oh, yeah.
Knock on wood, quarterback, just because. Look, if we don't know Arch is going to have growing pains or not, what they're going to entail, like you just said, Rod, KJ Lacey and Trey Owens are complete unknowns at this point. So, that is what it is. I think that's a given. I don't know, man. I like the maybe wide receiver. And to your point earlier, Rod, maybe corner just because of the lack of proven commodities. But there's talented depth up and down this roster. It's not all proven in some spots, but you're getting to the point where, I don't, CJ, you follow, you're involved in recruiting as much as anybody in the market. Like Texas has a roster where like Georgia and Ohio State and a couple of these other places have been where, you've got talent upon talent upon talent that the reload. You could argue that, hey, you may be less experienced, but are you more talented at fill in the blank position than you were the year before? Losing all these NFL guys. So it's talented depth, Rod. We talked about it for a damn decade on Longhorn Blitz, and we're finally seeing what it looks like.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Texas is very young across the board at a number of key positions, but I think to your point, Jeff, there's a lot of talent that has yet to see the surface. It's been kind of buried in the depth chart, kind of waiting its turn. With all these guys going to the NFL, now it's their time to step up and kind of take hold of it. Mm-hmm. Does that equate to success right away? Remains to be seen, but hey, I think over a 14-game season, you're going to see a higher level of play because of that talent. Jeff, I'm with you. Quarterback, tight end, those are the two. I was trying to think defensively. I love the linebackers. Defensive line might be the one. I know you got big bodies there. Myron Charles, Josiah Sharma, Justice Terry, they're all coming along very well. I can't stand having freshmen on my offensive line, and I can't stand having freshmen on my defensive line. Don't care how big you are. You don't understand the technique, the reps. I think that's the biggest point that you could have in college football and just say, all right, experience means something. It means something at the quarterback position, and it means something to me in the trenches. Defensive line, just because I know that you're going to need at least 5 per game. If you lose 2, you're digging deep into that freshman room. Mm-hmm. But we'll see. I think tight end is really the big one for me right now.
That's good. I like that. Yeah, it's basically what they're going after in the portal now, right?
Yeah.
Tight end, deep.
And that's why.
And that's exactly why. Wide receiver, you mentioned that too, Jeff. I think because they've been recruiting a lot of DBs and corners, they feel like at least we got some guys there. Yeah. We just don't know if they're ready just yet. So that's probably why they're not thinking that about corner, but I agree with all the positions you guys mentioned. Those are the positions right now. If you had, knock on wood, a rash of injuries, it may be debilitating for you. All right, let's get.
I'll give you another one, Rod, under the radar that you probably people wouldn't think about, and you don't think about it until it happens. The health of Lance St. Louis An experienced long snapper. Because we're talking about special teams, right? Kicking a bad snap can lose you a conference championship game, a must-win regular season game, a playoff game. So Lance St. Louis needs to stay healthy.
I mean, dude, that's how you got bad luck if your deep snapper get hurt. They barely even touch the deep snaps. Your deep snapper that's some bad luck, man. It may be a bad omen for you. But it is what's his name? They do have a backup long snapper though.
Tate Haver, yeah.
Yeah, right. He's a so they got a backup long snapper, and I believe he's accomplished in terms of long snapping. I don't know what that damn thing about long snapping. I'm assuming that he's been studying. He's got the understudy for the deep snap. You better have a deep snapper ready to go, though. Ain't no doubt about that. All right, good stuff there. All right, let's get to another super chat from Antonio Harris. Thank you for the super chat. We appreciate it. Says here, if Arch gets the flu, I'm confident in Trey Owens. Owens has a cannon. He does have an absolute gun. I mean, he does. He's got a big time arm. I like Trey. I remember on this channel before the spring game, last spring game, maybe the last spring game, that I was like, y'all gonna be pleasantly surprised at Trey Owens. He's got swagger. I would say even at borderline arrogance, but I think it's good for him because I don't think his confidence will be shaken by the situation and circumstance that he's in. But he's got a lot of the intangibles you like at quarterback. He's highly competitive. You don't just beat Katie in H-Town. Not being highly competitive. He's from what I've heard, got great leadership skills. But you guys got a chance to watch him. His deep ball is nice. Got really nice anticipation on down the field throws. Quick release. Not a dual threat, but got a functional enough mobility to move around in the pocket. I've said I'm on the record, guys, saying he won't be here to exhaust his eligibility, or I don't even know if he'll end up playing at Texas. I think he'll go play for somewhere else. But he'll stay here and help you stabilize the position. I'm not saying he's leaving in this portal. He's going to be here. He's going to be your backup quarterback next season. I just think there's a Malik Murphy type situation probably that's going to happen for him. So.
Yeah, my thing with Trey Owens is his confidence. You talk about the intangibles, right? Said this all along about Trey Owens. The guy that they were going to take at quarterback in the class after Arch signed, was going to have a pretty extraordinary amount of confidence in themselves, knowing what they were walking into. Knowing you're walking in where Quinn Ewers is the guy and Arch Manning's right behind him. And there's a chance you may not see the field, but you've got to believe in yourself and have enough about yourself to go compete for that job. Trey Owens is that guy. So I don't worry about the intangibles, the mental with him. It's all, if he had to play, how much of the offense changes going from him to Arch. Honestly, if we're just talking about pure arm talent, again, shout out to my man Bobby Petronic in the chat. I mean, you're talking about like there aren't that. He mentioned Rick McIver in terms of Trey Owens' arm strength, like back in the day. There aren't that many guys, Rod, that have come through this program that have the ability to just sit back and rip it the way Trey Owens does.
Yeah, I agree. No, he's got natural arm talent. Now, I agree with that. I was really impressed with the young man. So, no, listen, I trust Trey Owens too right now. If not would he had to play. Truth is, and I hate to say it, they say the best predictor of future events and future behavior is past events and past behavior. Guys, the past tells us that Trey Owens is going to play.
Mm-hmm.
The past of Texas football tells us that the backup quarterback will play. We just don't know in what situation, and we hope it ain't for a long time. But history suggests that he's going to play. I hate to say it. I would say it's one of the surest bets you can have in Texas football right now. Because when was the last time a Texas quarterback made it through? And how many times in the last 25 years has a Texas quarterback started and finished every game this season? Not very often. CB, I know you have the stat, so thank you.
Sam did it in 19.
Sam did it once. Sims did it in 02.
02. VY did it in 05.
Yeah.
Short list.
Shane Buechele do it? Did Buechele do it?
Yeah, 2016. Yeah.
Buccelli did it. Yeah, Buccelli did it. I don't know why I still call him Buccelli. I think the players called him Buccelli, and it's just stuck in my head. I always call him Buccelli now. I think he just had a kid too. Congratulations.
He did, yeah.
Yeah. So congratulations to Shane. All right.
He and wifey are both lifetime Longhorns, by the way. And
did it right.
I might since he is my all-time favorite quarterback. I do applaud Shane Buechele for wearing 7 because his dad was college roommates with John Elway. So you got that going on.
Respect. He knows where Blaze buried too. That's why.
Yes.
Let me thank our friends over at Von Lane before we move on. I know we're getting close to the end of our live stream. We'll take a few more questions, but let's thank Von Lane first. If you tried flying, you've tried driving to between the major Texas cities, and you've realized now it can be a very stressful situation. It can be a bit of a hassle. Let's face it, flying with security lines and packed gates and delayed flights and the ridiculous overpriced items in an airport, all for a 60-minute trip. It's not worth it, folks. And your stress levels they'll never forgive you. Driving isn't much better. If you ever tried that same round trip between Dallas and Austin, or Houston and DFW, or DFW and San Antonio, you have hours of lost productivity, emails piling up, calls going unanswered, all work left undone while you try to focus on the road with traffic. Why waste that day when you can stay connected and productive with Von Lane? Von Lane changes everything. It's luxury regional bus travel, what some call a private jet on wheels. You'll sink into a plush leather seat with a leg rest, stay connected with complimentary Wi-Fi, enjoy complimentary snacks and drinks on every trip, plus delicious meals on select departures. And if you need to freshen up, they have hot towel service. And if you want to relax, you can enjoy eye masks and pillows and blankets to keep you cozy. The Von Lane team takes care of every detail so you can sit back, relax, unwind, and enjoy a luxurious experience with Von Lane. And if you're planning a special trip, guys trip, gals trip, bachelor party, bachelorette party, football game, concert, special event, you can start your own Von Lane coach for the ultimate group experience. Von Lane, first-class travel without the hassle. See for yourself. Visit vonlane.com. That's VONLANE.com, and use the promo code OTF25 for $20 off your first trip with Von Lane. It's vonlane.com. And thank you very much to Von Lane for sponsoring our Wednesday night live stream. All right, Jose's got a super chat here. Says, good evening, gents. I've been out for a bit, but I want to know what you guys predict will be our style on O&D with the current personnel. Thanks, Jose. All right. You guys want to take a stab at it? What the style, the identity is going to be for Texas offensively and defensively?
Shout out to Jose, by the way. Good people. It's good to see him in the chat. Style on offense and defense. I think, just in a nutshell, and I'll turn it over to CJ. I'm basically filibustering to give CJ some time to think. I think in a nutshell, it will be less RPO reliant. RPO is still going to be a part of Sark's offense, but it'll be not as RPO heavy. It'll be more kind of hard play action. Taking more deep shots, more of those kind of deep comebacks, front pylon type throws, back shoulder throws, outside the numbers throws that we really get under Quinn, because that's more of Arch's style. I do think outside zone is still going to be something they try to establish, but I'd like to think that your inside zone and your between the tackles run game, specifically your B gap to B gap runs, will be better, I think, because you've got the personnel now. No disrespect to the guys that were there last year, but I think with Neto, Hudson, and Campbell, I think you've got a chance to maybe move the point a little bit on the interior in your run game. I think defensively, I think organic pressure is going to be the name of the game, Rod. We talked about that. I think it'll be organic pressure up front and more man-to-man coverage in the back. So if to sum that up, it will look more aggressive, but it'll still be a low blitz rate team, because PK is never going to be a high blitz rate guy, but it'll look more in your face, more aggressive, just because you've got the personnel to play that type of style.
Yeah, I like that. Look, it's going to sound maybe a little backhanded, but I think you're going to be looking at an offense that looked like Florida last year with DJ Lagway. vertically down the field, a lot of seam shots, a lot of back shoulders. I thought there was just again, I told you I've been watching all these games again for no reason other than just to talk about it. But with Lagway back there, you talk about the big arm, you talk about the vertical attack. They didn't have as many weapons, right? I think Eugene Wilson got hurt. Elijah Badger didn't make it through the year. DK, I think, was the other wide receiver that they had that they were relying on that really got things going down the field. I'm looking at what Texas has right now in its arsenal at wide receiver thinking, okay, all of these guys are built for a 50-50. All of these guys have body control. All of these guys are built for a back shoulder fade, something Texas didn't utilize really at all the last 3 years. So if that's the case, I'm thinking you got back shoulder fades, you got slot fades, you got posts, you got Mills route concepts. I'm thinking that there's going to be more of that offensively. We'll see what the running game looks like. Of course, I'm still waiting to hear if this offensive line has pieced things together in the outside zone, because that's not going to go away anytime soon. But all in all, I can't imagine that with Sarkisian, what he's shown over the last 4 years really here at Texas, the ability to dissect defenses, the way to kind of draw up guys to be open in key situations. All I think is that ball is going to get there a little bit quicker for these guys to run more free. And that's exciting because Texas has good playmakers right now. And we'll see what happens at tight end, obviously. Defensively, havoc up front. We've talked about it. Rod made us play the one-word game, and that was the word that I came up with. It's havoc up front, and I think that it's going to be sticky in the back end as long as communication's there. That's where I'll put the little caveat.
Yeah, and if they play a little bit more man-to-man, they won't have to communicate as much. Communication is going to be key. That's what this group was really good at, communication, and their eyes were really disciplined this past defensive backfield. Thank you, Jose. And for me, I agree with everything these guys said. Hard for me to add anything, honestly, other than, maybe defense will be, I think the hope defensively is they can be matchup based. They would ideally love for, to Kobe Black to end up showing that he's a starting caliber corner, along with, maybe another safety steps up. Someone here is asking about Phil Simeon, and has he shown anything? He seems like he's a forgotten. As Jesse says, feels like Phil Simeon is being forgotten about, or he's not stepping up. Any word on that, CJ? Because my point is, I think that Texas would ideally like to have, say, 5, 6 starters in the secondary that they consider, and then be able to, depending on the matchup, hey, break out your big nickel this week. Yeah. Hey, this week we got a team that likes to throw the football. Let's go with our coverage specialists on the field this week, our coverage group. I think they would like to mix and match a little bit more, of course, and rotate. But I guess that would depend on if a guy like Phil Sane. So I guess we can get into that a little bit before we get out of here. What's the on him, CJ? Is he going to be battling for one of those rotational spots at the safety position?
Yeah, that's the hope. Right now, he and Jordan Johnson-Rubel, running with that second unit. JJR actually a little bit more versatility. They've used him and spun him down towards that nickel spot at times as well. So for Phil Sami, it's all about finding the speed of the game, because that was something I think last year he kind of got lost with his eyes at times. Heck of an athlete. But Rod, you talk about it at safety, when you see everything coming in front of you and then all of a sudden something from the left or the right shoot in front of you, you can't be behind. And that's where I think he gets in trouble, is that diagnosis in the passing game. Now, when he does diagnose early and he's able to, go from read 1 to 2 to 3 to find where those wide receivers are going, he's going to be in the right spot because of that athleticism. It's all about consistency from then on out. So it's going to be interesting because, again, that safety room with Jelani McDonald, with Michael Taft, we know Derek Williams is going to figure into the mix when 100% healthy. Who's your number 4 guy? Is it JJR? Is it Phil Sami? Is it Jonah Williams? And let's not forget about Zealous Hicks, who's on campus currently at 6'2.5", 195 pounds. So there's a lot of potential in this room. I think more than anything, it's a bit of an unknown because I think this staff likes a lot of what they have with Jordan Johnson-Rubel. Remember last year we saw him more than Phil Sami. Yeah. I feel odd saying it that way, but we saw him more towards the back end of the season when Texas did dip into its deeper rotational bag to get guys on the field late in games. It was JJR that we saw over Phil Sami.
It's true. It's a good point. All right, let's take our last one.
Sorry, Robbie. You've got a lot of young guys on defense, and I'll just reinforce this. Those 3 non-con games after Ohio State, are going to be critical for those guys, because Sark has talked about, hey, we want to manufacture depth. We want to play a bunch of guys early. I don't think you'll see guys like Xavier Filsaman and Zealous Hicks and Jonah Williams against Ohio State. You'll see them against San Jose State or Sam Houston, teams like that. That'll be a really good, should be a good opportunity to get those guys some work. So that way, again, my landmark for a lot of things this year is that Florida game. By the time you get to that Florida game, you should have a pretty good idea of what your depth situation is.
Yeah.
Real quick. Does Texas have interest in John Emery? No, he's going to be 26, I think. Time for a job.
Trying to brush up to get the resume again. Get the resume right. All right. Let's thank our last sponsor of the evening. Thanks, Matthew. Texas football fans, you can score an easy extra point this season when you get to the point with our friends over at South Point Dodge. That's right, folks. South Point Dodge has over 600 vehicles in stock. You heard me. 600 vehicles in stock. So there's definitely one for you, including the all-new 2025 Jeep Wrangler. Get the real deal today and drive away in the Jeep Wrangler, a vehicle built for adventure. Plus, you can get the employee incentive pricing right now over at South Point Dodge. That's right. You pay what the employees pay at South Point Dodge. You essentially get the employee discount. You cannot beat that deal. That's the real deal that you only get at South Point Dodge. You can go see their inventory for yourself off of I-35 in South Austin, or you can go online at southpointdodge.com and check out their inventory there for yourself. We appreciate our friends over at South Point Dodge, Austin's automotive everything. southpointdodge.com. You need a new car, used car, trade in, whatever you're looking for, they can give you the real deal with southpointdodge.com. And don't forget about the employee discount. Man, that is a great deal. All right. Thank you very much to our sponsors. Thank you to Matthew behind the scenes. Matthew is the real MVP, folks. Can't do it without him. And also thank you to Jeff. Thank you, Jeff, for the expertise and your time. Thank you as well, CJ. Appreciate all of your knowledge as well. And thank you guys out there for the super chats and the questions and participation. Sorry we couldn't get to all of the questions and comments. If we missed any of them, please direct them to the gentleman at Coffee and Football tomorrow morning, 8:15. That'll be Bobby and Jerry bright and early with you. And tomorrow also we'll have the winning drive with CJ Vogel, myself, and Coach Bob Shipley as well. And thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to Von Lane, vonlane.com. Check out OTF25 and you'll get $20 off your first trip with Von Lane. Also, thank you to Bluebird Organizing, bluebirdorganizing.net, Flat Creek Winery, flatcreekestate.com, and thank you as well to South Point Dodge, southpointdodge.com. All right, for Jeff and for Matthew and for CJ and all of our sponsors, I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Beavers. Until next time, welcome horns.
Don't forget football theory tomorrow.